Hi, I'm Felix. I'm here to talk about Air Twister in the SEGA Lounge.
Welcome to the SEGA Lounge, where we celebrate our love for all things Sega, including the games, the music, and the community. I'm your host, KC. Join me as I talk to different guests and learn more about their projects and passion for Sega. Hello! Welcome to episode 205 of the SEGA Lounge. I'm sure there's a lot to be thankful for amidst all the craziness and not so fun stuff going on in the world. As for myself, I am mostly thankful for having you guys on that side listening to the show. You are very much appreciated. I also wanted to briefly mention a couple of things. Firstly, if you're listening to this episode on the week when it came out, Black Friday sales are upon us, which includes lots of discounts on Sega games and merch. It also includes sales on digital games like Steam's Autumn Sale. If you're looking for heavily discounted Sega games or merch, now's probably a good time to dig around the internet and take advantage. Other than that, let me give a special shout out to previous guest of the show, John Hare. He came on the lounge back in March on episode 175, and his game Sociable Soccer 24 is finally available on PC. Yay! I haven't yet played it, but it should be worth checking out if you're a fan of a more arcadey type of football/soccer game. Congrats to John on the launch, and if you've missed the show the first time around, check it out, episode 175. Great guest. Right then, with that out of the way, it's time to keep going. After a different style of episode last week, we're back to our interviews. So let's talk about this week's guest.
Nothing can live without you.
This week, I'm joined by Felix Wagner of ININ Games, who came on the lounge to talk about Air Twister, Yu Suzuki's latest game. Air Twister is now available on most platforms, so Felix was kind enough to share some interesting information on the game. We also talked about other Sega-related properties handled by ININ Games. Oh, and if you haven't tried the game yet, we're giving away a Steam code for Air Twister, so stick around for more details on that. Hey Felix, welcome to the SEGA Lounge. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's great
Thank
to
you
be
so
here.
much for coming. How's it going? Doing well?
Oh, going good, going well. It's getting colder right now, but that's fine. I'm inside.
It is over here as well. Yeah, even in sunny Portugal, it's colder. Yeah, this week. Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to come here and talk about Air Twister. But as we were talking before we started recording, I always like to get to know my guests a little bit more, like intimately. Maybe not really, but okay, you know what I mean. And so my first question is usually, how did you get into video games? Like, obviously, first as a gamer, I imagine.
Yeah. For me, I grew up my entire life with video games. So my dad has been working as an independent trailer producer, filmmaker in the industry for 30 plus years now. So since I was born, I've been around video games. Now this started, so I'm born in 1995, so I'm 28 now. This was right around the time with the N64, the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 later, of course, the first desktop PCs. I still remember playing StarCraft 1 with my brother, connecting both PCs with a LAN cable, because even Wi-Fi, it kind of started, but you didn't really have stable Wi-Fi to play games on. And then the Zeldas, of course, Mario, then with the PS2, the Jack and Daxter games. So I was around lots of different games, different stuff, because my dad also worked for all of these. My mom also plays all the Zelda games, the Mario games. We had these huge guidebooks, right? They used to. I
Oh,
mean, they
nice.
still do. They still
Mhm.
exist for the new Zelda games. Yeah, but these huge guidebooks for the games. My mom used to study them, and um, reading these is always fun. Um, yeah, and then it kind of never went away. Then later in my youth, of course, it developed more into the PC direction. So the um, excessive amounts of World of Warcraft sometimes, maybe a bit too much, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and then the other thing then also for gaming is esports, which I got really huge into with StarCraft 2 then. Um, yeah, StarCraft 2, League of Legends, Dota 2, all that kind of stuff. So really,
Mhm.
um, yeah, it's always been part of my life.
Okay. Okay. So I have a very difficult question for you because you mentioned Zelda, and although this is always a divisive, this is the Sega Lounge, but let's talk about Nintendo for a little bit. Which is your favorite Zelda game?
Ah, to
Not to put you on
me,
the spot, but
yeah, no, I think I would say Wind Waker for GameCube. I couldn't really tell you why. I mean, of course, there's Ocarina of Time.
Mhm.
Yeah, but Wind Waker, I think I played the most as a kid.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's a great game. I never played the original, but I played the HD version on the Wii U.
Mm,
I'm one
nice.
of the like 10 people who had a Wii U, and
Yeah. It needed to exist, so we have the Switch now.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
necessary evil. Uh,
exactly.
but I enjoyed it very much. I'm more of a recent Zelda fan, if that makes sense. I think the first the first one that I played was A Link to the Past
Mm,
through emulation. But in recent years, like
yeah,
15 or probably 15 years ago, not more than that. And I became a very huge Zelda fan, actually. But
yeah.
yeah,
It's
so I appreciate that. Yeah, very much. Okay.
I was worried because of course I grew up right like after the glory days of the Mega Drive and then the Dreamcast. We did have a Dreamcast.
Okay.
Um, I do remember looking at it in my dad's studio, but sadly that's about it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No. This first part of the episode will never air, of course, because we're not
Okay,
going to talk about Zelda and stuff on the show.
okay,
I'm
okay.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's all good. It's all good. Uh, yeah,
I
but,
was worried, but at least I mean, I did get in touch with Sega way more in the company now, being a 3 years. So that's
mhm, mhm.
I do got some stuff to talk about there.
Okay. Excellent. That's good. That's good. So you mentioned that like the gaming aspect, which never went away. How did you get into the industry? Like, was
Yeah,
that always like a dream? Was that like always the goal? So when I grow up, I'm gonna work in the games industry in some capacity.
yeah. So it's kind of more of the same. It's kind of it was a natural progression. Even for United Games and for ININ Games, my dad made trailers, and so that's how I got in touch with the company ultimately. Um, so yeah, the fascination was always there. I always wanted to work in the industry, be it game design, programming, or now more in the project management, producing direction. Um, yeah, so it was kind of a natural progression, kind of a no brainer, I would say.
Okay. So how did you start exactly?
With an internship, quite like so.
Okay.
I did university. I did my bachelor's degree in international economics and Japanese. Um,
Okay.
and so yeah, it made a lot of sense because we do have a strong focus also on Japanese games and kind of going into that direction. So there was also kind of a natural, perfect fit, I would say. So yeah,
Okay. And did you start in this company or somewhere
yes,
else? Oh yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
ININ Games was 6 months old when I joined.
You mentioned that. What is your exact role right now?
Currently, I'm doing project management. And this includes some producing elements because for us we do lots of different games and emulation projects. We are doing I guess more traditional publishing. So I handle lots of different things. And before that I was doing product management, so being more focused on the asset design, what shows up in the store, how the package looks, and all that kind of stuff. So I've kind of transitioned from position to position, but currently it's project management with a touch of producing.
Okay. Is there like any of those aspects that's your favorite? That's you can say like this is what I really love to do.
Yeah, so for one, I just like managing various different tasks and kind of having more of a top-down view on everything, but also the more detailed and finicky development aspects are always interesting, especially with us, because with emulation projects, and it's definitely a different approach, and it's kind of niche in how you have to look at it. So yeah, kind of also learning about the past, especially from a development point of view, is quite interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is interesting because you've actually probably had the chance of learning a lot because you guys have been working with older IPs and games that obviously for us as Sega fans, the Wonder Boy series is one that comes to mind, right?
Yeah, there are lots of games that are older than me, so that's always funny to think about. But yeah, the Wonder Boy games, of course, one of the bigger IPs, also with Sega, being in direct contact with the team from Westone Bit, Ryuichi Nishizawa. I have a Wonder Boy shirt signed by him, so
Nice.
that's really cool, and yeah, experiencing kind of retrospectively, but still these legacies and learning about them. That's really cool. And the Wonder Boy games, and we have different different collections. The anniversary collection where there's every Wonder Boy in every iteration, the Japanese versions, the Western versions, because there used to be differences, of course, more so than they are today. Yeah, so that's been really fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's you don't need to feel bad about learning about these or experiencing later in life because I grew up with the Mega Drive. I'm a little bit older than you. I was born in '84, a little bit, and but I never actually played the Wonder Boy games until recent years as well.
Yeah.
I do remember. I think I've mentioned this before at a certain point in this show that I do remember one of the box arts for one of the games, the Wonder Boy games. That's a memory that I have, which is interesting. So I remember games that I have never experienced from the box art. So I associate them with a certain time in my life because I was always seeing them. Because back in the day, when you got a Mega Drive, for example, the back of the box of the console itself had some screenshots or like the pictures of the box art of games. Or inside games, you'd have like those posters with like a what was like a catalog of games that were available to purchase, and one of those was one of the Wonder Boy games, and I always thought, this looks interesting. I don't know what this is about.
Yeah.
And it's not really related to the game itself. Now that I know what the game is, but it's one of those that I was always seeing and I associate with the Mega Drive.
Yeah, this is also really interesting because if we take those games, for example, using assets or even the game itself, it's sometimes there just isn't a lot of material left that we can use and we can work with. Right? This includes scans of exactly these old cover sheets or old manuals, and it's really just it's scans of the physical object, and having to work with this. That can also be really fun because I think many people are used to having just hard drives full of different art assets and concept design, and sometimes we are very limited, but that's also sometimes you need to be creative, so that's interesting sometimes.
Yeah. Did you have access to a lot of stuff that wasn't like readily available? I'm guessing yes, because in the collection, for example, for the Wonder Boy collection, you've included a lot of stuff that wasn't really, I think, anywhere or at least easily available, right?
Yeah, so it's definitely a mix of being connected to the developers themselves and also in the community, and this is like a tight knit sphere of people that are really into these games, right? So it's always kind of a mix of gathering all these kinds of different things. Of course, ourselves being very well versed in the whole sphere, and probably know an above average level of have an above average level of these games and these old IPs, especially with Japan. Yeah, but there's always something that gets dug up somehow. That's always exciting.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, very good. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your experience. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure we'll get more chance to discuss this. But let's get into a little bit of Air Twister, right? So
Yeah.
that's the main goal of our conversation here. So
Yeah.
Air Twister is, for people who are not familiar, like, I don't think anyone needs to know this. They all do by now, but it's a game by Yu Suzuki, by Sega legend, video game legend Yu Suzuki, right? Were you familiar at all with Yu Suzuki in terms of like maybe even just the name or knowing his legacy or anything?
I think I heard the name before, and I was also familiar with some. I've heard some games of his before, without necessarily knowing that he made them. I've heard of Virtua Fighter before. Outrun, I think, I knew before. So yeah, it's definitely in some capacity you've heard of something he did.
Okay, okay, excellent. And so I wanted to know a little bit more about the game, right? So this is a game that is out now. People can now experience it. It was firstly available on Apple Arcade, but now it's available on most modern systems. So can you share, if you know this at all, what inspired you, Suzuki, in the creation of this game?
Yeah, so as if I don't quote me on this, but if I remember correctly, he was approached by Apple Arcade to design a game for them. And in the initial stages, they kind of try to figure out what he wants to do and what they want. And I think they got together quite quickly. So, in these arcade roots, it's just a game that you can start up and play. You immediately know what's going on. It's a bit simpler in terms of controls. And he wanted to do a shooter, really trying to capture this 80s, 90s nostalgia. I mean, there's of course the natural connection of Space Harrier. Um, yeah, and so he was also, I think, eager to work on a different IP after all these years. I mean, he has done the Shenmue 3, of course, with Wisenet, with this
Yes.
company. But yeah, just an entirely different IP, new designs, new visuals, kind of being able to express himself personally. So yeah, there's design wise some inspiration from the Never Ending Story, I think. So I think all these kinds of things got together and really um, yeah, inspired him to make Air Twister and make it what it is.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Space Harrier is the first thing that I think, for at least for Sega fans, will come to mind, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Another one is Panzer Dragoon. I don't know if you're familiar with that, like the Saturn game that
yeah,
is, because you're riding an animal, a beast, or something. So it's actually that's also something that, at least for me, like those are the two things that come to mind when I look at Air Twister.
yeah.
Okay, and in terms of gameplay, what are like the unique mechanics in this game that people should be excited about? So if there's someone who hasn't yet tried the game, how would you like sell it to them in terms of
Yeah.
gameplay?
So what's great to me, of course, being a bit younger and being used to some luxury in terms of technical possibilities, it's a game that really feels like an arcade game, having now, of course, played a lot of them as well. But there's less technical restriction. So you have a lot of different game modes. You have a vast amount of unlocks, different cosmetics, different weapons. So all these factors that were quite limiting in the past, they are eliminated. So it's a great mix of kind of this old, more simple style that's very easy to pick up, but also then lots of different game modes, different difficulties. Yeah, there's the turbo mode that's really fun, where you go double the speed, or everything around you goes double the speed. So it's can be really challenging. But also fair to play in the normal story mode. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's this great mix of old and new, and I personally love the art style and the music. Um, yeah,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's not that easy to get into. Not hard. Sorry, not that hard to get into in terms of gameplay, right?
yeah,
It's not really like a game that you feel like, oh no, this is very hard to control or anything. It flows really well. It's really nice
yeah.
to.
Where you just do half an hour of reading before you even finish the tutorial. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
straightforward, but still fun and still great.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's like you said, the visual style, the aesthetic of the game is definitely a plus. How do you describe it to people? Because I really don't know how to describe it without showing it to people.
Yeah, it's difficult because every stage looks completely different. It's the the most pleasant form of a fever dream, I would say. Um, yeah, but of course, some inspiration. Quoting Suzuki-san himself is the never-ending story, the movie. You know, floating buildings, floating rocks, that kind of vibe, and just everything he personally likes in a fantasy world because it's less. And nothing against the usual sci-fi design of shoot 'em ups, but that's of course the easy go-to, which has its charm for sure. But it's kind of cool to have a bit of refreshing visuals. My personal favorite stage is stage 5. Um, what comes to mind for me is Alice in Wonderland at first, and it's like
Okay.
huge mushrooms and trees,
Yeah.
and yeah. So it's definitely it's very strange design, but it's great. You really get to see something else in each
Mhm.
stage.
It feels to be like the natural progression when you think about Space Harrier. This is what Space Harrier would probably have looked like if
Yeah.
he had access to the technology that he has today, right? To the
Yeah, yeah.
right.
That's also
So,
less of a sci-fi design, which we can later talk about the Cotton games, by the way, which I'm a huge fan
oh
of,
yeah,
because there were some for the Sega
uh-huh.
consoles. But yeah, so I'm quite fond of the less sci-fi design and just a bit more out there, and
Mhm.
Space Hero are similar, yeah.
Yeah, like some of the elements, obviously more simplistic because you didn't have, he couldn't fit all that he did into the game. That all that he did in Air Twister, he couldn't do in Space Harrier. But it really feels like it's the same vibe,
Yeah,
times 100 or something. So it's really nice. It's like fantasy and sci-fi. That's a good description.
yeah.
Yeah, and it
Also, I think one good way to put it, and because of course it's not supposed to necessarily be space area, but more modern. But it's it's to me interesting because it just feels like it's what Yu Suzuki likes to do, and just the design he likes. And so taking the formulas for a arcade style shooting game with a certain fantasy design kind of to him leads up to this
mhm,
sort of
mhm.
sort of design, which I think is really cool and really interesting.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit unfair when we're always, or at least I am, always mentioning, oh, this reminds me of this past work, this previous
Yeah.
work, right? When maybe he just wants this to be known and looked at from a different perspective. This is its own thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it can't be helped.
No, it's fair for sure, but it's unique enough, I would
Yeah,
say. It's
it
it's
is. It
definitely
is.
kind of close and familiar, but also unique in its own sense.
For sure, for sure. You mentioned the Cotton Games. That's a good shot as well, right? So it has like the same vibe of like this fantasy world, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the Cotton Games, we have almost released all of them by now,
Hmm.
and I've worked on all of them. And so when I started, I was kind of, I don't want to say put off, but it was strange. But over the years, I've really gotten to appreciate the this more out there design, strange design. Um, and one of the weirder ones was definitely Panorama Cotton for the Mega Drive. Um, yeah, that has some strange the cutscenes. There's a very weird dialogue that happen or like text box that happens if you beat the game on the hardest difficulty and get 1,000,000 points, which is not easy to do, of course. But it's multiple slides of some strange stuff about Silk's belly button. So Silk, Cotton's fairy companion, and it's just talking about her belly button, and that's
Of
quite
course.
strange to read, but it's I like stuff that's kind of a bit out there and a bit weird, but it's at least very personal, very very different, I guess.
There we
Um,
go.
yeah,
We're coming back to the fever dream again, right?
exactly.
Excellent. Yeah. So, by the way, yeah. So you've almost released all of them, right? So
Yeah.
you
So
have
the
like the
last,
big
um,
collection of games available.
yeah. So we have done Fantastic Night Dreams, the first one, and then
Hmm.
100% and Panorama Cotton, and I feel like I'm missing one. With this, and then, I
There's
mean,
another
Cotton
one.
Reboot, of course, the new one, and
Yeah.
then there's the last shoot 'em up Cotton. I need to be careful here because there's one more that's very strange. Um, Rainbow Cotton for the
Oh yeah.
Dreamcast.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So this is what we are working on right now. Actually, this is going to
Okay.
release. I think Q1 24. So first half next year.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a really really fun and interesting project because it's a bit more development work. Yeah, I can't go into too much detail yet, I don't think, and I don't want to say anything wrong. But we're working on that, and with that we have all Cotton shoot 'em ups. There's Pachinko
Excellent.
Cotton as well, which is
Okay.
it. I would love to do it just for for completionist's sake, but it's of course less. I guess.
Maybe
Oh, I'm
maybe
missing the
like an
boomerang
add-on.
and I'm missing Cotton 2 and Boomerang. We have also done the collector's edition for that one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So yeah, I need to get more into the cotton games, to be honest. I played a few, but I need to
Yeah.
go back
It,
to
it
and like look at them. I'm not very good at shoot 'em ups. I'm not very
they are
good at games in
it's
general, but
interesting. Yeah. They are, I mean, they are mostly scripted, right? So you kind of, if you just learn everything, but that's of course very grindy. But to me, with the esports interest and stuff, I'm
hmm.
used to grindy games, so it's fun to me. But the Cottons, yeah, the I think the earlier ones, so um Cotton 100% is good to get into, or the new Cotton Fantasy, or in Japan it's called Cotton Rock and Roll. That's also available, which is an entirely new Cotton game, which is probably also a good way to get into it. Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm internally in the company to some known as Mr. Cotton, so I'm. If you need help on Cotton games, just ask me. That's fine.
Okay, okay. Well, I think we'll need to do a special cotton episode of the Sega
Oh,
Lounge
I that
soon
that
and
that'd be
have you
great.
back for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. You mentioned the music, which I think is a big plus, at least for me. I don't know if this is the same for everyone. I imagine it's not what people will probably be expecting from like a video game by Yu Suzuki. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it's as a big, huge Queen fan. This is just amazing for me. And this is obviously by Valencia. How did this happen? How did Yu Suzuki and Valencia, collaborated? Why did this happen? Doesn't really
Yeah,
feel like it fits, but it does.
it's so Yu Suzuki was a fan of his before. He started doing Air Twister, and he just kind of envisioned his music and thought it fitting for the game, and basically created with some existing music of Valencia some clips and to kind of show how it represents the visual design, and contacted him on social media because he didn't have any contact details. But yeah, he was a fan before and contacted him, sent him the stuff, and he liked it, and it went from there. So they did need to change some lyrics of the songs because it wasn't, you wouldn't expect a song about, I don't, a breakup or something uh, in a shoot 'em up, but with those changes, yeah, and I think as well it works great. It's strange. I get that it can be polarizing, but I really like it.
It is. It is. It is great, right?
Yeah,
Polarizing more because of the surprise of it. I think.
yeah,
It kind of fits. I think. Yeah, it's different. It's different, but
yeah,
definitely a plus. I would say one of the highlights of the game for me. You know,
yeah. I agree.
it wouldn't be the same without this
Yeah,
soundtrack.
yeah.
Okay, very good. So you have you had the chance to actually directly collaborate with Yu Suzuki, or not really?
Yeah. No, we talked to him and his team quite regularly, actually.
Mhm.
So it was always kind of a back and forth because we do always try to um, continue what the developer and the creator of the game envisioned, and kind of in their communication as well, of course. So texts are assets that, of course, gets shown to them, and so we were in close contact for quite some time. This of course always a lot of coordination in terms of development, in terms of all the different setup, the release planning. So yeah, we were able to talk to him directly. I wasn't able to personally meet him, unfortunately, but my colleague Alice met them in at LucaCon in Italy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's I'm kind of jealous. That would have been nice.
Okay, maybe next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So any interesting stories about that, about like any kind of feedback that you got, or anything that you'd like to tell us, or you can, obviously.
Yeah, and there's of course some stuff I can say. I mean, there were the usual difficulties, not necessarily with Yu Suzuki or WiseNet. It's more like the usual stuff that during publishing, with some. I don't want to call out any one platform here, but there's always some difficulties. But with WiseNet, it went really smooth. It was a great experience overall to work with them. They were very responsive. I think it really um, worked out quite well. That also a quick shout out to Joel, who's the translator who for WiseNet, and we did a lot of communication, of course, with him. Yeah, so he was also great to work with. Yeah, other than that, it's our first Steam release, which is nice. Which of course posed some additional challenges, some research on some specifics, but yeah, so that's kind of cool.
Excellent. Yeah, very good. So what exactly was your, not your Felix role, but like United Games or ININ Games role in all of this, apart from the publishing? Did you do any kind of technical stuff, or were there
Um,
others porting the
yeah.
games and stuff?
So they were handling the porting mostly. But we are,
Mm.
since we have a lot of experience with porting to consoles, the control setup, because that's of course kind of a challenge since it came from Apple Arcade. Luckily, there were already controller or
Yeah,
gamepad control schemes, so that was kind
yeah.
of a bit easier. Um, but what we mainly were able to offer, I think, is all the expertise on how to set specific stuff up for the different platforms. Because nowadays, I feel like I know, especially for my experience, a disproportionate amount about especially physical publishing, the setup there, because that's always kind of different, right? So nowadays, lots of people do only digital, only Steam, even maybe. Um, yeah, so we did help a lot there, and all handled
Hmm.
all the tech setup, all the submissions, and all that.
Hmm. Okay, so that's where the back and forth happened, right?
Yeah, and then of course for because we are also releasing a physical edition, um, yeah, all that coordination. There's of course a bit more trouble than just having the game, having some graphics for the store. There's the physical production. There's a manual or an instruction sheet inside of the case, and um,
Hmm.
then of course the collector's edition by Strictly Limited Games, where there's a ton of uh, cool items that also take a lot of effort to do. An art book, a biography on Yu Suzuki. Um, and yeah, that usually takes just a lot of coordination, that we got all the facts right, and we really put in the effort to get everything right there.
Hmm. Hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, excellent. So in terms of like all of the games that you worked on, is this one of the most was this one of the most complex projects, or not really?
It was one of the easier ones, I would say, actually,
Okay.
because it's at least um, a modern game being just ported for the platforms. I mean, it gets really, really tricky and interesting when you um, get to the retro games, especially like the arcade games where maybe there's no emulator, so custom. We need to create a custom emulator. Um, Try and access some source code because there might be some stuff we need to take out for, let's say, legal reasons, or some logos, that
Hmm.
that's kind of outdated. So it was actually one of the, I'd say, more straightforward projects.
Okay. Yeah. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, that's nice to have sometimes. That's I don't mind it.
Exactly. Okay, very good. Excellent. Now that the game is out, so obviously this all happened before the game launched. I'm guessing when the game is out, you can either give a big sigh of relief or hold your breath waiting for people's reactions, right? I don't know which one usually happens more.
Yeah, it's definitely a mix of both. To me, I guess in my role personally, I'm happy when the game is approved by the platforms, right? So Nintendo or Sony, they are looking at the game, of course, and it can be ordered on the cartridge or it can be released.
Mhm.
I leave the rest to marketing and sales, right? So I don't, yeah. That's to me, it's more of a sigh of relief, but obviously it's not done now. There's marketing campaigns. There's definitely attention that still needs to be paid. But for me personally, it's a sigh of relief more
Okay.
so.
Okay. Excellent. Very good. And so my next question has to do with that, with the community's reaction, with the players' reaction. So I think, there was an audience on Apple Arcade, of course there was, but it not as huge as the one that is now with the multi-platform aspect of this release. So how has the reaction been? What is the feedback that you guys have been having from Air Twister?
Yeah, so for one, it's we hear a lot that it's great that we are bringing this to all the consoles, that it's finally a bit more accessible, and then especially, of course, the passionate Yu Suzuki fans, that they are really happy about it. The feedback is great there, because that's always an interesting position that we are in. That if we are dealing with these either big IPs or just legacies of people, of publishers, of developers. There's a good chance there's someone that knows more about this than I do. Sometimes I try to be informed as much as I can, and I think I do have a different information angle there. But yeah, so there's lots of passionate Yu Suzuki fans that are really happy it's now playable. So that's great. Also with Steam, with all the different consoles.
Yeah. And it's by the way a great Steam Deck game. It works great on the Steam Deck. By the way,
Yeah.
I don't think
I'm
it's
really happy about it. Yeah,
I don't think it's officially verified by Valve, or at least wasn't a couple of days ago. But it works great. So
yeah. No, that's one of the concerns I had, because we kind of needed to figure out Steam a bit. I mean, we had some experience in the company, of course, also from past jobs and everything. But yeah, once I saw that, I was kind of relieved, because obviously we have the Switch background. That's usually one of our stronger platforms. So yeah, it's a great Steam Deck game. It works well for exactly like these kinds of situations.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's how I've been playing it personally.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great. There's a lot of content for people to play, a lot of hours that people can put into this game and enjoy it for sure. Air Twister is the most recent game by Sega legend Yu Suzuki, a style of gameplay that reminds me of a mix of Space Harrier and Panzer Dragoon, with a very special soundtrack by acclaimed Dutch musician and composer Valencia. Thanks to ININ Games, we're giving away a code for the Steam version of Air Twister to one of our lucky listeners. To enter the giveaway, head over to thesegalounge.com/airtwister and complete one or more of the actions indicated on the page. Each of them is worth an entry into the raffle. Entries close on Monday, November 27th at 11:59 p.m. GMT. The winner will be announced on Tuesday, November 28th on our social media. That's thesegalounge.com/airtwister, open until November 27th. So Felix, I feel like we should take a little break here from talking, because you're getting tired, and there's always a tradition here on the Sega Lounge. which is something I like to call the SEGA Lounge Challenge.
Now that you know our guests, it's time to put them to the test. It's the moment we've waited for and the moment they dread.
Welcome to your doom.
I mean, welcome to the SEGA Lounge Challenge.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. So we didn't really talk about this in advance. But, so what is the SEGA Lounge Challenge? It can be anything I want, if I'm being honest.
Exciting.
So I thought to myself, so we're talking about a Yu Suzuki game. And having played them or not, you at least know, and you should probably have like a list of, or in your head of some of the games that Yu Suzuki has worked on. But I played this the other day with another guest. I thought to myself, can you identify the game from the description at the backs of the box art?
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, it's a Yu Suzuki game. These are all Yu Suzuki games.
Okay.
I will read the English description, the back of the box art, and then you'll tell me if you think you know what the game is.
Okay.
So let's start with an easy one. Okay, I'll have to redact some of these, otherwise we'll spoil the titles. But so let's start with this one. Sega Saturn, which is a hint, unleashes the state-of-the-art fighting simulator that rocked the arcade world. With all 700 plus special arcade moves, all 9 polygon-based fighters, super smooth sprite scaling, and groundbreaking 3D graphics, Redacted is the fastest, most awesome punch-em-up ever.
That must be Virtua Fighter? Maybe?
No, are you sure? What gave it away?
It's a fighting game. Okay, that's an easy one. That's
Correct.
okay.
Yes,
Good. At
of
least
course.
one. I take it.
1 point. Good job. Good job. Yes, that was an easy one. Okay, so that's the first one. Let's go with number 2. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Okay. Let's see this one. Brought to you by Top Game Coders AM2. This pixel-perfect conversion of the smash hit coin-op contains all the bumper-to-bumper action found in the stunning arcade original. Crash and bash your way through 3 grueling tracks featuring true 3D graphics plus many hidden game modes.
I am not sure.
Any
I
idea?
should
Any
probably
idea
know
what
this
kind of
is AM2.
game this could be from the description?
Could it be Outrun?
Why?
That's a game I know. To be honest.
So it is. There is talk about arcade original. So Outrun is an arcade original. There are tracks. So maybe, yeah.
It's the racing game.
So your answer is? Your guess is?
I'm staying with Outrun because I can't. Yep.
Okay. Your answer is incorrect. No, it was Daytona USA. USA, which he worked on as well in some
blanked.
capacity. Okay, it's okay. So it wasn't meant to be easy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at another one. Okay, Felix.
Okay.
Open your eyes to the most compelling form of interactivity ever experienced outside the real world. Redacted is a passionate and gripping story captured in a beautifully rendered 3D world, brought to life using magic weather and time control technologies. Interact with a huge cast of characters with movements as intricate as a twitch of a finger. Experience real-time fighting and discover the host of online features available. This is clearly not a game, but an experience never to be forgotten. I agree.
That does sound a lot like Shenmue 3.
Why?
It open world, close to real life,
Okay.
cast
So-
of characters. Yeah.
It says like it's something that has never been seen before and stuff. So you think that's...
Is it another Shenmue, or am I just off? Or do I? Should have just said Shenmue. Then I say Shenmue 2
Or maybe...
or Shenmue 1.
Oh my God, you're right. How could it... Oh, that's amazing. Well
Amazing.
done. That's it. Very good. This was the description of the first one.
Yeah, that makes lots of sense in hindsight. Yeah. Okay.
Right? Like the original one.
Yeah. that
Okay. Okay, very good. You're doing great. 2 points. Let's look at another one. Okay. I think this... Oh, this is easy. This is too easy. Okay, let's see. You scream off the carrier. There's no time to think. You're caught in a swarm of enemy aircraft and more are dead ahead. They're closing in at Mach 5 as your machine gun starts blasting.
Am I just blanking on the name now?
It continues.
No.
Nothing
Oh.
can prepare you for the incredible speed of the attack. Hit your... Redacted. Dive and twist. Throw your plane into a 360 roll as the enemy spins by so close you almost touch wingtips.
I might be blanking on the name.
What kind of game is it?
It's shoot 'em up, flying.
Mhm.
What was it called? Afterburner? Was it called that?
There is a game called Afterburner. Yes.
Yeah. Could it be that?
Could it be that, though? Could it? It could, but is it?
It isn't.
So this is actually... I will give you the point. Yes.
Okay.
It's Afterburner 2, which was released on the Mega Drive, but
Okay.
the first one wasn't. So yeah, that's a good guess. So 1 point. Yes, it was Afterburner. Okay. One more.
Okay.
Okay, one more. Okay, let's go with this one. This is an interesting one. Laser blasts and dodge your way through a frantic fantasy land swarming with unbelievable monsters and mutoids constantly coming at you. Accelerate through this arcade classic and answer the distress call, or pay the ultimate penalty. Wow. Too much.
Mm-hmm. It
Very
does
serious.
sound like Space Harrier, doesn't it?
Oh, you're asking me.
Yes. I mean, just maybe second guessing. I must say Space Harrier.
Yeah, that's not very sure either way, but okay.
I'm just second guessing myself.
Like Space Harrier?
Yeah.
Yeah, Space Harrier. Good job, Space Harrier. This was actually, I read the description of the 32X game. So the 32X, which was that add-on that you could, insert on top of the Mega Drive. No one's heard of it. No one's heard of it.
I've seen pictures.
Never mind.
Yeah.
That's the best way to experience the 32X, by seeing pictures.
Yeah.
All the 32X fanboys are now just screaming at me. Okay. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. We're 5 games in. Let's do another one. Look, number 6.
Okay.
You're a redacted. Putting your life on the line is your job. Staying alive is your challenge. Split-second decision-making, timing, and lightning-fast reflexes are what it takes in this adrenaline-pumping game of cat and mouse. Dirtbags pop out of virtually every hiding place with their guns aimed, cocked, and ready to shoot you. So exciting.
Intense, yeah.
Intense.
I'm not sure I have a guess.
This
to
is
be
the
honest.
US version, by the way. I don't have the European version. Oh no, the European version is much cooler, much more chill.
Yeah.
It's time to plug in your optional redacted and deal out some justice.
That's
So
that's more chill.
yeah.
And that
Any
should
guesses?
be quite the hint, right? Your optional plugin.
There's
your
an
optional
optional
redacted.
thing that you can use.
I
But,
don't
that-
think I will get it. I don't know.
Okay. So the optional is the optional Virtua Gun. And the game is Virtua Cop. No
Oh,
points.
of course. Yeah,
Virtua
that
Cop.
makes a whole lot of sense.
The US version, actually, they are popping out of every corner and trying to shoot you. So that actually helps.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more, Felix. Number 7. I think this one will be easy, very easy. Across the sea, from a distant land in the east, he shall appear. The epic adventure of Redacted is reborn once again as Ryo Hazuki arrives in Hong Kong on his continued mission to avenge his father's death and discover the truth behind the Phoenix Mirror.
50-50 chance, I would say. Is it Shenmue 2?
Could be. What gave it away?
Hong Kong, the character names. It could also be Shenmue 3, but not.
It actually couldn't. No. He's not in Hong Kong anymore in Shenmue 3. So yes, this is Shenmue 2. Yes. This was the Dreamcast version, the European one, which had this description in the back of the box. Okay. So 3 left. This is hard mode now, Felix. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So good job. Let's see if you can get a few more.
Okay.
Evil threatens the world of Redacted. Armies of the evil king Tsarkon march in conquest. All hearts look to you, the son of good King Eric V, to end the madness. And this is like the whole box. So at the end it says, be ready for hundreds of hours of adventure gameplay. Save up to 3 different games. Can you imagine that? With battery backup.
Also kind of a hint. But I think I'm not familiar enough. I don't know, I think.
This is a Mega Drive game.
Yeah.
Not really the most well-known Yu Suzuki game.
I don't think
a
I
little bit
know.
different. Okay, so no answers, no guesses?
No.
Okay. This is called Sword of Vermilion. No
Okay.
points. Sword of Vermilion.
I will look it up.
An action RPG for the Mega Drive, released in Japan in 1989. So in Europe, 1991.
Okay.
So yeah. Interesting game. Okay, we have 2 more, right? We have 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
So which one should I go with? Okay, I think I'll go with this one. I think this is very, very hard. No,
That
it's not.
one's
It's
hard.
not. Okay. Drive across every landscape imaginable in Redacted. The ultimate race against time. Use your driving skills to show the world that you are the champion of the highways. And that's it. That's all
I-
it says.
Yeah. I'll just say Afterburner 1. Just I don't know. It's just a wild guess.
You drive here. So
Oh, am I completely confusing it with the other one?
maybe one that you've already
That one,
mentioned.
but the first part. I don't remember.
So the one that you drive, like it's out something.
It's Outrun. So Outrun, the first one.
Outrun. Very good. It's Outrun. Indeed. Yes.
I take those. That's okay.
Always take those. Yes, yes. This is not easy. Always do. Okay, last one. Number 10. Are you ready, Felix?
Yes.
This is the big one. Okay. Prepare yourself. Take flight with Redacted. The new all-out rail shooter by legendary arcade developer Yu Suzuki. And that's all you'll get.
I had a feeling this was coming. Yes, I think this might be Air Twister.
Air Twister. Why?
Yeah, I never heard of it.
Is that
it's this
even a
new
game?
Let me tell you about it.
So
Yeah,
you're
I
saying
think-
Air Twister.
Yes. Final answer.
You think I would go with that for my final game?
Did have a feeling. I was waiting for it.
Oh, you were waiting for it. Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
great.
Well done. Well done. Very good. Good job. So those were 10 Yu Suzuki games in a very short time. You did a great job, actually. You know, I didn't help
Somewhere
that
I-
much.
Not that much, maybe, but you did it for some.
Just
But
a little
I
bit.
Take it. That's
Just
okay.
a little bit. Good job. Good job. That means you get the official SEGA Lounge seal of approval. Good
Amazing.
job, Felix. Very
Great.
good. Thank you. Thank you for playing.
My pleasure.
Okay, very good. So now you can breathe again. Whew, you can
Yeah.
breathe. Excellent. Very good. So so obviously Air Twister is now available. People can get it, can enjoy it. Would you like to, in this final part of our chat, to talk a little bit about like other ININ games projects that like we've already mentioned Cotton, for example. We've talked about Wonder Boy, the Wonder Boy collection and stuff. Is there anything for people listening to us that you are like really proud of and would like to promote, talk about?
So, one of my favorite stories to just tell to anyone, even that maybe if they aren't that familiar with games, is about Clockwork Aquario. You might be familiar with it.
Yep.
Which is a game developed by Western Bit, so the Wonder Boy developers by Riichi Nishizawa. And the game was never finished, so it was supposed to be the last arcade game from Western Bit. But yeah, it just ended up being scrapped because, of course, with the home consoles kind of on the rise, so it was just never finished. And the existence of it was known, so there were some leaks or some information on the internet. But there was no way to play it. It just wasn't available to that degree. And so we went out and contacted all the old developers, tried to just scrap everything together that we could, and finished the game basically. And the cool part is that we actually have a Guinness World Record for the game, which is longest development time start to finish. Technically, there was some pause in it, but yeah, I think it's 28 years and 81 days. I think. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know who we took this from. I don't want to give any false credit here. Yeah, but we took it from some known IP, which is funny.
Okay.
So we have that.
Interesting. What was there? was it not that much of a difference?
I think it was kind of close. Yeah,
Really?
I
Okay.
think.
Okay, interesting. I can't think of another game that took like 20 something years to be released. That's interesting. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a great award.
Yeah, no, that's
a great
it's
record.
also is a great game. It's sad that it didn't got finished, but it's really quirky. Also got the arcade vibe. You know, just easy to pick up, just play. It's kind of the platformer kind of Mario Brothers game vibe, but more colorful and more Japanese, even like more in your face Japanese, which is always fun in the arcades.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Did you get to work closely with Ryushi Nishizawa for any of these projects, or you yourself personally, or not really?
Me myself, not quite, because this was all kind of when I joined the company, so it was, I guess, the, let's say, more important project, so they weren't necessarily given to me. And also at that time I started in product management and marketing, so it was kind of less on the coordination of development side of things. Yeah, but at least I did work on them to some degree, be it marketing, be it a bit of product management, bit of administrative stuff. So yeah, I did get to experience the tail end of it, I guess.
Okay, okay. And for the other Wonder Boy games, same thing, or?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I joined when I think the Wonder Boy Usher, so Usher in Monster World, right, which is the remake of Monster World 4. And for that, I did the usual internship work of kind of recording footage, recording screenshots, recording a full playthrough of the game. Yeah, so I kind of got in touch with all these games quite early, but this was all when I joined.
Okay. Did you die a lot playing Asha in Monster World?
I have a passionate disdain for any ice levels. So there's I think the third world is the ice world, and I can't. Regardless of game, it's just the sliding around mechanics. I'm having lots of difficulty dealing with those. So that one, yeah, that was kind of rough.
I think I can remember it's been a couple of years at least. Like, was it 2020, 2021? Can't remember.
Yeah, maybe
Probably.
early 21 or late
early,
20.
yeah. I remember I reviewed the game for this show and played this. But I can't remember comparing the two, which one is harder, the original or this one. I imagine the original is a little bit harder. And
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think so.
frustrating. And that's the most frustrating part of the game.
Yeah.
In both games, but
Yeah.
the
for sure.
original much more, I think. Yeah, so I can relate.
Yeah.
But it's a great game. It's a game
Oh, it
that I
is,
enjoy
yeah.
very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great remake as well.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So people can check out all the games on your website, right? So iningames.com, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, let me check. Yeah, iningames.com, yes. Yeah, so there's links to we have for all of these games. At least most of them have physical editions as well. I personally kind of started appreciating the physical games more when I finally got a Switch a few years back. Because I mean, my PC doesn't even have a disk drive anymore, but for the Switch, so I do appreciate the physical versions for some of these games, and of course all the usual platforms, PlayStation and Switch, and soon also some of them go to Xbox. Actually, there's this. I'm not sure what I can say and what I can't, but that's planned. So
Okay.
yeah.
Be on the lookout for Xbox versions of
Yeah,
some
which
of
is
these
great.
games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's great. Regardless of the platform of your preference, having everything available everywhere should be the way to go when possible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everyone can actually enjoy the games and play them where they want, how they want. Right.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, very good. So, anything, Felix, that you want to add for people listening in, Air Twister fans, video game fans in general? Anything you'd like to share before I ask you my final question?
Okay. Yeah. So for me, my personal experience, I mean, I have kind of a different view, I would say, because I didn't necessarily grow up with all of these games, but having worked with them and looking into them more, I do appreciate um, the games for what they are, and also kind of how they ultimately also made video games what they are today. So that's really, really cool learning about the older games and kind of where stuff comes from. Maybe even, sources and games you haven't necessarily heard of, but kind of checking those out, learning about those, that can be fun for anyone. And to me, I really gained a newfound uh, respect, I guess, for all these older games. So they do deserve a spot, and I think this is also what we are doing with ININ, kind of preserving these games because they are still great to play and still really cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
So check
that's
them out.
great. Definitely. Agreed. Recommended. Yeah, do check them out. Yeah. Excellent. By the way, have you played Shenmue? Any of the Shenmue games?
I have not, and but I watched playthroughs of it. So I don't play too many story-based games myself because I'm, with the, which I mentioned at the start, the esports thing, I'm very much in this, grindy games. I play League of Legends, Dota 2, Super Smash Brothers, like all these games where the first 100 hours are the tutorial. But I do very much enjoy watching them, and I did watch a Shenmue 3 playthrough. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's I can understand that it's not for everyone, like the series itself, especially the first two games. Probably for people who are not familiar, who didn't play them back when they got released. It's probably a little bit harder now to get into them, but they're my favorite games. So yeah, my favorite series. Hence the question. Yeah. Okay, but that's not my final question. My final question is always the same, Felix. Back in the 1990s, so in the US, the Mega Drive was known as the Genesis, as you probably know, and they had like an advertising campaign saying that the Genesis had blast processing, and so it made the console faster than the competition, more powerful. So I usually ask my guests, let's imagine blast processing is a real thing. So if you could add blast processing to anything in the world, what would it be and why?
That's difficult.
There are no wrong answers.
Oh, you know what? The Switch, my Nintendo Switch, because it's a great console, but it's a little bit frustrating, especially for me coming from PC, and it's why it needs, why doesn't it have a bit better performance, right? So yeah, all Nintendo Switches around the world.
I can really feel the frustration in your voice.
Like,
why?
The Wii, for me, it was done when the Wii did not have HDMI, and it released roughly the same time as the Xbox 360 and the PS3.
That's when they started doing their own thing, right? And not caring about the industry standard or anything. Yeah, that's true. I'm hoping for a new Nintendo Switch next year.
Yeah, me too. Because it usually entails a new Smash Brothers game, so that's for me the main incentive.
Where did they go from this one, though?
That's a good question, but the market, there's interesting stuff. It's on the rise. There's Nickelodeon All-Stars Pro 2, which just released. There's Rivals of Ether 2, which the Kickstarter started recently. Multiversus is still in development, so maybe there's some competition tends to help sometimes. So
okay, that's a good point. Okay, so 2024, the year of the new Switch, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And better performance for games.
Yeah.
Okay, Felix, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming
Thank
on the
you.
SEGA Lounge. Really
Thank you
appreciate
so much
it.
for having me. It was really fun.
I'm gonna note down that cotton special coming up
Yeah, with
next
rainbow
year,
cotton.
and I'll bring you back to talk about cotton.
That'd be great.
Okay, thank you very much. All the best for
Thank you.
your work at ININ and for Air Twister as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again to Felix for coming on the show, and also a big shout out to Ed, also from ININ Games, for his help setting this up and for the Steam code we're giving away. Remember to head over to thesegalounge.com/airtwister to enter the giveaway. Closes on November 27th. If you already own Air Twister, I hope you're enjoying it. Let us know your thoughts on the game on Twitter at @thesegalounge. I'd love to hear from you. And that's it for this week's show. I'll be back next week with one more guest, this time someone somewhat related, to the Mega Drive. So I hope you come back next week and check it out. Thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the SEGA Lounge. Have a great week. Enjoy all of the games. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. The SEGA Lounge, hosted by me, KC, and part of Radio Sega's network of live shows and podcasts. Theme song and incidental music by OSC. Find them at opussciencecollective.bandcamp.com. Got any suggestions? Drop me an email to podcast@thesegalounge.com. Find us at The SEGA Lounge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find previous episodes of the show by going to thesegalounge.com and wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. A Mixed On Productions podcast.